Alright guys, well it's Tuesday. I'm going to do sort of like a Tool Tuesday type of thing. So this is pretty much just my basic layout of brake tools. Now this is for, doing brake lines, just servicing a caliper, pads and rotors, pads, whatever the case be. I'm actually doing a wheel bearing, which I'm going to try posting a video of that later. But this is just kind of like the basic tools that I have that I use regularly to do simple, brake stuff. So right off the back, a breaker bar, you got to take the tire off. Sometimes the actual caliper bracket bolts, you can't get those with a 3/8 ratchet. So I got a 1/2 inch. This happens to be Harbor Freight. I had one of these before this one for almost 10 years. And I finally broke it doing a pitman arm on a Jeep. Brought it to Harbor Freight. They warrantied it out. I'm not repping Harbor Freight. By no way am I sponsored by anybody. But just personally, I have this. I've got Mac tools. I've got Matco. So on and so forth. So a breaker bar to get the tire off. And those bolts that just don't come free. I got a couple of these. This one's a performance tool. It's an 8 and a 10 millimeter. It's an offset wrench. This I use more than a regular ratchet or a socket to bleed brakes. They're awesome. You kind of get into tight spots, open, close, done deal. Moving on, if you're doing like brake line repair, this is just one that I have. It's a little tube bender. Going from there, if we come over here, we have the actual flaring tool set. This particular set does 3/16 all the way to 1/2 inch. I don't really use the actual cutter much. It has been used, but as soon as the brake fluid got on it, you wiped it off and the coating started coming off. And due to the size of it, if I'm actually trying to flare a brake line in a car or a truck, 9 times out of 10, I can't get this in where I need it. So I end up going with something. Here, I'll set it right beside it. It's quite a bit smaller. It's just a regular tube cutter. I use this one way more than I use that one. But the actual flare set, I use, this crimps the brake line in. You use the actual size. There's a little groove right here. I just put that to, when I'm doing a brake line, I'll flush it up to this bottom part. So it'll come in up to right here where that groove is. And then I'll crimp it into the actual tool. So that takes care of the actual flaring tool set. If you guys want a video of how to actually flare a brake line, put it in the comments, message me. So there's that. I've got a couple different, these are spring tools. What they're used for are drum brakes usually. Some parking brakes, you have the little flare. This one here used to be closed like that, but I wedged it out. That way I had more of a room to get in there, to twist it, let it spring out, and then it comes off. Going from there, as far as the brake flaring, this is more or less the brake lines. Here's another hook tool. This also is for the springs when you're trying to get these clips on and off. And drum brakes, parking brakes, depending on the year, make, and model, they have springs. So that will help you either put the springs on, or you get in there, you hook it, you pull it. It'll help you remove the spring. Moving on from there, I started off with this one a long time ago. This is just a single piston caliper press. What it does is it'll actually push the piston in so you can put your new brake pads, new rotors, etc. on. Some vehicles, sometimes, a C-clamp. This is a 4-inch one. I've got a 4-inch. I think I've got a 6-inch. I know I've got a 12-inch one. But this does come in handy. And then moving on, this is just a cheaper version of the Lyle ratcheting piston, the piston press. What it does is you ratchet it here. It's got a little switch that goes on off. See if I can get this in here a little bit better for you. But right there, there's a little switch. Goes forward or backwards. And as you ratchet it, it opens up, forcing the pistons to move in. And then it gives you the room for your new pads, your rotors, that sort of thing. Now, one thing that I'm terrible with is losing these little things here. I'm actually painting this for another video just so it sticks out a little bit more. But what it is the caliper hook. What you do is you hook it to your control arm, to your strut, somewhere like that, and it'll hold the caliper up and out of the way. Other than that, those are pretty much like the basic. If I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't buy one of these. I would probably just spend the money and go with one of these setups. They are awesome. You know, you just sit there, you just nice and slowly ratchet it. You watch the piston come out. It's easy to do. This here, if you have a piston that's really stuck, I mean, you got to sit here with this in there. You know, you got your brake pad here up against your pistons. And you just sit there forever, just sitting there spinning and spinning and spinning. One of the major problems with these, if you have a piston that's got corrosion, rust, it's been there a while, you're going to fight with this tool to try to get it to crank in. Now, if you have too much of a problem, obviously you're going to replace the piston or the caliper itself. But this is pretty much the basic entry-level standard. Here's what you need to push in a single piston. Now, with all that being said, there are other tools. One of them is a little square block. I might put that in a different video. But like the Ford cars, GM came out with them on the Malibus and such. It's just a little square block. It's got a bunch of little teeth on it. You got to put it there, and then you got to spin that, and it spins the caliper in. It's not just a straight pressing. But other than that, as far as like the basic setup for, you know, doing brake service, those sort of jobs, I guess you could say. You know, you're going to service your brakes a lot. So spending, you know, $20, $30, $40, $50 for one of these, if you do your own maintenance, guys, it's going to pay off. It's going to be a lifesaver no matter what you do. But as far as the brakes, that's all I'm going to go with for right now. I'll try to post another video maybe later, like I said, and we'll catch you on the next one.